Hello, everybody. It's Megan Hass, and I did Indigenous people and career development. So, a brief overview. I'm going to go over some general facts, common mental health conditions in the Indigenous peoples, barriers to both employment, and then as well as social and environmental barriers Indigenous peoples may face, and simply what career counselors can do to help. I posted this little Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. It's what we know as Columbus Day, and it was changed a couple years ago in protest of the colonization by Europeans and to recognize the great losses suffered by the Native American people. So, first, some general facts and common mental health disorders in the Indigenous people. This picture down here shows 1.3% of the US population identifies as Native American or Alaskan Native. And of those people, 19% report having a mental illness in the past year. That's about 827,000 people, and that could fill every Major League Baseball stadium on the East Coast 2 times. So I think that goes to show that mental health illness is prevalent in the Indigenous peoples, and we often don't think about that. Another good fact is the percent of bachelor degrees obtained by American Indian or Alaskan Native undergraduates has decreased from 0.8% of the population to just 0.6%. Approximately 372,000 Native people speak a language other than English at home. And this is kind of a barrier, but I'm going to go into that in just a minute. Some common mental health disorders in this population include multi-generational trauma. So the tribes or the Native American people closely rely on the land and living off nature. Colonization was traumatic for these people, and the trauma gets passed on generation to generation. And I think that's because of the stories that the elders tell the youngers. Also, there's higher drug use at younger ages than all other ethnic groups. And when Indigenous people are seeking help, if they seek help, they're more likely to seek help from spiritual leaders, spiritual healers, obviously somebody that doesn't have a background in mental health. So, employment related barriers in this population. So, some of the barriers include low access to transportation, language barriers. Some might require a translator in order to understand the career counseling material. And I think in order to benefit from career counseling, they're going to have the skills to understand. So, as a counselor, that means we have to get a translator. And they also have no access to childcare. So, Indigenous families often have many kids with limited resources to tend to them if they had to leave for some reason. Now I'm going to talk about some environmental and social barriers. So as you can see on the chart over here, between 06 and 2011, there was a trend in Native American unemployment, and it rose from about 8% to 15%. And some of the barriers I included are just general discrimination, some bias, cultural barriers. So perhaps certain tribes only permit certain types of work. Indigenous peoples also have no access to counseling. So some still live in rural areas where no counseling services are near them. And that goes along with the no transportation, so they have no way to get to them. And then finally, I included the mistrust of the government. So research showed that due to prior mistreatment of the Indigenous peoples, and this includes broken treaties or forced removals from their land, the Indigenous peoples find it hard to trust governmental services. So, what is our role as a career counselor? Our role includes gaining a better understanding of the Indigenous culture. So, as counselors in training, we should be educating ourselves, even on the bare minimum of some of their cultures. We should address and acknowledge barriers to success in unemployment. So that goes along with my previous slide. We should be aware of the biases and the discriminations that come with the Indigenous peoples and how we can help and recognize how these are barriers to their employment. As counselors or counselors in training, we need to implement client-specific treatment plans. So we need to remember that no two clients are ever the same. And lastly, I included giving cultural formulation interviews. This is kind of a survey that you would give in one of the first couple therapy sessions that finds out how much an Indigenous person's culture influences their decision making. And I think this is really helpful and important in determining a treatment plan. So, what can we do as counselors as well as just the general population? I included some resources for Indigenous peoples. The Indigenous Skills and Employment Training, or the ISET program, provides direct funding to Indigenous organizations to deliver jobs and employment training in Canada. And then I included the link to the National Alliance on Mental Illness. They have resources on where they can find access to counseling. I also included the Mental Health America. And overall, we should just make it easier for them to get jobs. So, and then I included some resources that I used as well as the textbook. So, thank you.